Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/beat and browse an unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/BEAT.
And I see the robin.
I'm just searching for equality, looking for some reason, no violence, no apologies. But I do want opportunity, hard work. It ain't new to me.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Rach Da Gem, back for another week of Melanin Blvd. Thank you for joining me. This week we have guest Marquis Taylor, host of Detroit Worldwide Podcast. How you doing this morning or this afternoon?
What up, though? How's everybody doing? That is the greeting that we give people from Detroit. So, Rachel, I give that same greeting to you. What up, though?
Shit, none. None at all. Just trying to be normal.
For sure.
How are you guys holding up out there with this Rona?
We're good. Well, I live in Minnesota, so as we're talking, I'm looking at news updates and things like that. The cases have gone up, but we're holding steady. I have been in the house for the better part of 3 days. I'm starting to get cabin fever, but I think I will probably leave out at some point because I need to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting cabin fever. I'm used to running all over the city every single day, and I've kind of had to sit down. You know, all of the events are canceled, just everything. So it's been kind of hard. Last night, me and my kids went to the club. It was cool. That's what I got to do at the house. I turned a little strobe light on the TV. We got it in, got some dancing in. And I woke up late this morning. Like, I really went to the club. I was like, I got to get it together. So it's, we're seeing people panic, right? And I'm not really in panic mode. I'm more so in, let me just make sure I got everything as much as I need and try to be prepared as possible. I saw this post that said, don't be offended that Black people are making a joke out of it. We've been laughing at our pain for years. So do you think that there's a difference between how we're handling this situation versus like white people or other races?
I mean, you kind of alluded to it. I mean, we have to find pain in the joy, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the most accurate way to put it, but I mean, it's a serious situation. People are losing their lives, obviously, and they're advising people to stay indoors. So I think for us, we just try to, as Kevin Hart, I think is what, Laugh in My Pain, I guess that's the name of it.
Yeah.
As once said before. So look at it like that, but at the same time, I know that we are people that are very much prayerful, and we try to not look at the dark side of it, if that makes sense. So,
right.
Yeah, we just got to do what we can.
Right. I definitely agree. We need the same things that we need every day. And the fact that people went out and bought up all of the essentials and not think about anybody else. You know, I know it's everyone for themselves sometimes, but we still have to look out for each other. I think as a community, I've experienced my people looking out for each other. We're kind of banding together and seeing if we need anything. If I have something, a surplus of something, and I can spare some, I'm going to give it. So we definitely see a difference in how it's being handled and the community behind, just the fact that, are we going to stick together? Is it fight or flight? Is it every man for himself? Are you going to hoard things? Like, what are we going to do? Do you feel like we're going to be locked down for more than 30 days?
You know, it's kind of hard to say. I know that the issue is becoming more severe. And if I were to talk about the podcast for a second, but then kind of connecting it to this discussion, the question you just asked me. A few weeks ago, we had an infectious disease fellow doctor who knows a little bit about what's going on. And at the time we recorded that episode, I think I put it out a few weeks ago, but we recorded, I think, sometime in February. The cases weren't becoming as extreme. Now they are becoming extreme with it being middle of March. And I can foresee that possibly happening, but, excuse my language, people got to stay their asses in the house for it to kind of come down. So it's kind of hard to say. It's very hard to say.
Okay. One thing I wanted to point out is maybe a week ago, it felt like, it's not a lot of Black people getting this, right? So with this being said, all of a sudden, Idris Elba comes out and says, oh, he's got it. And I don't know if it was in Chicago, a Black woman, I think she was a nurse. She passed away. And so now we're seeing more cases of people that look like us getting Rona. 2 Laker players. I don't know if they're Black. At this time, I haven't seen the release of the names, but now we're seeing, these basketball players that are saying that they tested positive. I kind of think it's funny how for a few weeks, it wasn't like, a high amount of Black people who got it. Even if you go to the African countries, it's like 1 case, no deaths, of people that are melanin rich. So I kind of think that that's a little funny.
Yeah, I mean, the cases are becoming more high profile. I mean, the first thing I think about is when they canceled the NBA season, and Rudy Gobert, who plays for the Jazz, he was one of the first quote unquote high profile people to contract it. And then from there, his teammate Donovan Mitchell, and then I read that Kevin Durant has it, and Christian Wood, who plays for the Detroit Pistons. I mean, there are other people who are getting it, but those are like the more quote unquote high profile people that I'm thinking of that have received it or have contracted it, I should say. But that again brings the severity of it. We got to be cautious, and we got to stay in the house.
Yeah, I think definitely whether it is intentional or not intentional, we do have to protect ourselves. Me and my kids, if we need something, I'm going to go out and get it. I can't have my mom out there. My mom has MS. Her immune system is if something were to happen, it's going to be really hard for her to fight it versus, someone like myself. I went out and bought some aloe juice, some black seed oil. Like, I'm really not playing with these people. I'm not playing. So we have to protect ourselves and use common sense in the day-to-day things that we do. And we should have been, I don't know who's not washing their hands, but okay. That's a problem for me. It's kind of like when they say, like, these are the things that you need to do. It's so simple. This is like kindergarten level here. So it really makes you look at the world a little differently. Italy is completely shut down. The cases are, I forget the number, but it was a really large number of people that passed away from corona within 24 hours. It was like over 500 people. So it's pretty scary. It's pretty scary.
It is. You got to be cautious.
Right. Keep your butt in the house and be smart when you do have to go out, because the grocery stores are still open, gas stations, etc. Just try to stay safe. I saw this lady, I went to the store and I saw this lady, she had on gloves, rubber gloves, but she was holding a rotisserie chicken. So I felt like, come on, lady, somebody made that chicken in this store. So it's kind of like people are not using common sense. I know we can't be fully protected, but we can go home and we can make our own food. We can sterilize our own food. But you're wearing gloves carrying a rotisserie chicken. That's all I'm saying. Made no sense to me. So that was weird. But here in Las Vegas, the strip is completely shut down. A lot of people got laid off. And specifically, someone sent an article to me that said 16 MGM directors and execs buy thousands of shares amid virus stock impact. So this is at the same time. So they're still employed and buying stock to become more wealthy during a time where thousands of employees have been laid off. So I thought that was, that, again, that's people looking out for themselves. Of course, it's a great time. But at the same time, NBA players are donating money to support and cover the salaries of the people who were laid off during the suspension of the the season. So you kind of see two extremes. You see people like, this is an opportunity for me to like get more, knowing that people are suffering that directly work below you. And then on the other hand, we've got NBA players saying, hey, we have a whole staff of, from the janitor to the ticket check-in to the whoever, they're doing things to cover their salaries. And so my question is in the NBA, what are the people that are writing the checks doing? Nothing. But the players,
No, you raised a good point. I think out of all of the owners, I think this one at first hit, but Mark Cuban, who owns the Dallas Mavericks, I remember him as everything was going on. They interviewed him during the game, and he mentioned it without anybody prompting him to. He said, "I'm more so concerned about the workers," and from there he put his money where his mouth was and made sure that the people who ran his team, or rather the people who work in the service industry for the Dallas Mavericks and the people who work at that arena, they were taken care of. And from there it became a positive domino effect where you saw other players, kind of doing the same thing as well. Thinking about like Blake Griffin and Giannis Antetokounmpo and people like that. So it's been a positive, but at the same time, like those owners who are billionaires could have easily have done the same thing that the players were doing, because although the players are very wealthy in comparison to a billionaire who owns the team, they could have done the same thing just as easily. But I digress.
No, you don't. You bring up valid points. I always look at, the basketball players make money, but a check is written for them. I want to be the one that's writing the check. So I always look at like who really has the control and who has the ability to make things a little bit better for people out there. This is a scary time where people are like, well, I don't even know if I can pay my rent next month because I've been, I haven't worked. How am I going to buy food? So it's a very scary place for middle class. We could look at big businesses and say it's a scary time for them. But my thing is, these big businesses, if they're being shut down and they're going to be in a financial crisis, were they that stable to begin with? It's not even been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. I think there is always a reason behind everything that the government does. You have your bailouts, you have your tax cuts, and all these things. There's definitely a reason behind it, which we will eventually see. But not just to harp on that, because that's really the only thing going on, because that's all we got right now. But I did want to talk about your podcast, Detroit Worldwide. And I want everyone to kind of understand what you do. I love that you are highlighting people in your city doing great things. So could you tell us a little bit more about that podcast?
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I neglected to do when I gave when I said hello or what up, though, I forgot to say thank you for allowing me the space to come on here. So I wanted to send my shout out to you and thank you for what you're doing as well, because I'm equally just as impressed as what you're doing too.
Thank you.
But for sure, to tell you a little bit about the podcast, I started it in May of 2019, and the idea behind it was really just providing space for people to talk about Detroit and for us to kind of control the narrative. And what I mean by that is, so often I travel a lot across the country, and received a lot of disparaging comments about the D. People, saying stuff like, I heard people getting shot up there, and it's this dangerous place, blah, blah, blah. So I figured, what would it mean for us to kind of have a space where we can control the narrative? And really, I wanted to learn more about people who are like me, who living out of town. I live in Minnesota. I've been living here for, almost close to 7 years. I can't believe I said that out loud. But nonetheless, I was always interested in learning about people who lived out of town, who are from Detroit, and how did Detroit influence the way that they see the world. But I think it's kind of morphed into something else in that, for instance, today, one of our most recent episodes, Kingdom Chills, who is a Christian artist, just dropped a EP, a project today. And we've been using it as vehicles to support people's projects as well. Like I've had authors on here, I've had musicians. So I think it's also served in a way where we are supporting each other, cooperative economics in a way, because we have small business owners that can like, yo, let me come on your podcast and talk about my business. And look, I got this album that's coming out. So the idea behind it it's become something else, which is a good thing. But I'm interested to see where it's going to transition into in the next few months or a year. Or future possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I love the fact that, you've allowed it to evolve, and you didn't kind of stop and say, well, that's not what I had in mind. I think the fact that it evolved in that way was a lot more beneficial to you because it opens up your brand to so much more. So it's not even been a full year and you're doing great things already. Had amazing guests. I've listened to a couple episodes from, like you said, authors, musicians. I think the last episode I listened to, you interviewed a coach. So it's very impressive to see the Detroit in a different light, which you did a great job in doing so. Because when people talk about Detroit, it's always somewhat in a negative space. From a lot of the episodes that I listened to, it's kind of like when the crack epidemic hit, that's when we kind of saw a difference in the culture of Detroit, right? You saw, the big, is it GM or what's in Detroit?
Yeah, the big three, GM, Chrysler and Ford, the big three.
Yep. And so having some of those factories, closed down or slow down, had a huge impact on the economy in that area. So the fact that you are able to bring a different narrative about the city to everyone, I feel everyone needs to listen to it because they want us to see certain places in a certain way, the media, I should say. And the people that live there, they can control that and voice the truth. People get shot in every city. So, lots of things happen here in Las Vegas, and because it's a tourist city, it's not put out there. Lots of things happen. Prostitutes rob men all the time. So, but that's not talked about. So, that area is a they highlight that area in a negative light for a reason. So, I know that you wanted to bring a different narrative to Detroit, and I know you're a writer. Why a podcast?
Really good question. I think podcasting for me and just in general, I mean, first of all, listen to them. Been listening to podcasts probably before they were quote unquote popular, maybe in like the mid 2000s or whatever. But anyway, it's a modern form of storytelling. Like, yes, I write and my background is writing, but I think that the podcast has allowed me to get back to that writing because my background, just to tell you a little bit about that, I have an English degree, but I work in education. And when I was an undergrad, I used to write for the school newspaper in my undergraduate institution, Wayne State University. Shout out to them. And that springboarded into me writing for the Michigan Front Page, which is the sister paper of the Michigan Chronicle, which is one of the oldest Black publications in the nation. But all of that began in high school. I don't want to go to all of my history, but I say all this to say writing is my first love, but it's really highlighting people in a positive way. Like, I love to go to Black-owned businesses. I love supporting them, going to Black-owned restaurants. And I think for me, the podcast has allowed me to do those things, but for the people to kind of tell the story. Like, for instance, you just mentioned one of the last interviews that we had, which was with Coach Gary Waters, who our oldest person we've had on the podcast, right? He's older than my parents. I'm not sure if you want me to share that, but it's all good. He's the oldest person I've had on there, but hearing his perspective growing up in Detroit, he was a college basketball coach for 40 years. And to learn about how he grew up in the D and to hear him talk about Motown and how that came to be, and then some of the people that he's coached. Like, this is dope. I'm 36 years old, so my perspective of Detroit is my perspective and my viewpoint. And that's the cool thing about the podcast. Like, the person that I have on there today, they just turned 28. They have a totally different experience growing up in the D than I have. Had people who in there who've been my age or older. So I see it as a vessel of history, because you got a person like Coach Gary Waters or Dominique Morisseau, who's like a renowned playwright who writes plays about Detroit, and she has plays on Broadway.
Wow. That
to me, like, is people kind of coming together and talking about their experience, but at the same time, us reflecting and also giving credit to how Detroit has shaped our viewpoint and also the way that we see the world. So to get to your question and to kind of wrap it up, I mean, the podcasting is so accessible. And even though I love writing, let's be honest, not a lot of people read as much anymore, if I'm being completely honest. But the podcasting, it just kind of gives you, like, you know, that sort of instant gratification, while at the same time it's a modern form of storytelling.
Nice. How do you find your guests? How you have guests every single week. So how are you finding guests that have had an impact on the city or are doing things great in the city?
You know, as a podcaster, this is probably one of the hardest jobs to find guests. And to be completely honest, I mean, I use different measures. I don't want to give all of my secrets away, but some of the people I personally know, other people, I reach out to them and I say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Others, like, I work with people's management companies that kind of refer people to me.
Okay.
Because I work in media, I kind of know how media works, right? So I know how to contact a person's, like, press team or public relations. And so I would say that's been the benefit, like, me working in media, because I've also, like, interviewed artists and stuff for newspaper publications. So I kind of know how media works. I know who you need to talk to. But referrals, people I personally know, social media, you name it. Shoot, I might even ask you for some referrals offline, low key. But but you know how it is. The podcaster, you gotta just be out here grinding.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely. That was my biggest fear when I went into, like, this third season, knowing that I'm like, I'm gonna have a guest every week, and it actually. I don't know, if you market yourself, you can reach out to people and you're active, they actually come to me. So I could say for me, it's been a lot easier than I thought. It hasn't been easy, but a lot easier than I initially thought. So I want to touch on just really quickly. I know that you said that you had a different outlook on Detroit, and everyone in each era has a different kind of outlook. The person that just turned 28, they're a little less than a decade younger than you. But what is your experience when it comes to you growing up in Detroit?
Great question. My experience growing up in the D, working in middle class family, I had both mom and dad at the crib. I think what was unique about my situation is that my father was a business owner who owned a record store for many years, and that's where, like, my love for music comes from. And then my uncle also owned a record store, as well as my cousin. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs in my family.
Okay.
So I would say having that stability with mom and pops at the crib, that definitely helped out. Me being the oldest of 4 children, they put a lot of pressure on me to, you know, Marquis, you got to make sure you're doing right in school. You know, you got your brother looking up to you. You got your sisters looking up to you. You got to get your shit straight. You know, be frank. And I'm being very transparent there. So I would say, with all of that being said, I was able and very fortunate to go to a Afrocentric school, Malcolm X Academy, from the time I was in 3rd grade to the time I was in 8th grade. I have a very positive outlook as far as, like, my understanding of Black history is very affirming. My understanding of Black history as a beginning of slavery is most schools tend to teach students. So I have a rich understanding what that means, what it means to be Black, what it means to just carry yourself with pride. And to kind of paraphrase one of my earlier guests, I mean, I think a lot of us kind of feel this way coming from the D. We didn't grow up to be enamored by white people. Like, we in our own communities have excellence. Mm-hmm. And to see a white person is like, okay, so what you doing here? Like, I'm great.
Yeah.
So that to me has instilled a lot of self-confidence. Just my upbringing, seeing Black excellence, you know, going to a Black doctor, Black dentist. Again, my dad, uncle, cousins, they were entrepreneurs. I had other entrepreneurs in my family, but also like my school. I would also say like my school situation, while it wasn't unique, it was also a little bit of the norm, because I feel like all of the Detroit public schools prided themselves on Black history and Black excellence. Mm-hmm. I think with our school being Malcolm X Academy, understanding what he stood for, and other people, you know, like a Martin Luther King or a Macy Jemison, they just gave us so much confidence. I can't speak enough, but I feel like my experience is so affirming. Like, and I'll probably just wrap up by saying, the coolest thing I think about being from Detroit is I used to write for the Michigan Chronicle, again, which is one of the oldest Black publications in the nation. And I was writing for this paper when I was in high school. And I remember, and I'll, you know, kind of summarize the story, because I can go into so much detail. I can be long-winded at times. So I remember going to work, going to my cousin's record store, and I was stopping in a restaurant called the Coney Island, which is, you know, a place, we call them Coney Islands. It can be, we can talk about that too. But stopping to get something to eat, and I was paying for my stuff, and this dude was like, "Hey, is your name Marquis Taylor?" I'm like, "Yeah, how do you know me?" Like, "Man, I saw your article in the paper. Oh. You wrote about that new Jay-Z album." And because they used to put our pictures and stuff in there too. So, mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I did write about that Jay-Z album. This is the blueprint, the first blueprint. So this when I was in high school. So, like, "Yeah, what you getting, man?" "Well, I'm about to get this burger, whatever." Like, "Man, I'll pay for that for you." I'm like, "For real?" Like, "Yeah, man, you keep doing your thing." So it goes back to what you were saying earlier about our people looking out for each other. Like, mm-hmm. This dude didn't know me for nothing, but he paid for my meal. And that to me is very much reflective of Detroit and just how we look out for each other. And yeah, some good and some bad parts, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but like, that to me, that moment is always still with me. I was 17 years old at the time. I'm 36. I'm like, yo, like, I always remember that. So I always remember to like give back and to make sure I support people, because people have done the same thing for me. So yeah, the D.
So I wanted to kind of touch on things, because I know you are also an educator, and mm-hmm. you put a lot of energy behind supporting people, you know, kids that look like us. Mm-hmm. The charter system, the charter school system. I was listening to the podcast with the coach, and he was saying, you know, he went to one of the best schools in the city, and it's mm-hmm. closed now. And mm-hmm. now we're seeing with this wave of charter schools hitting the cities, that we're seeing these schools that have been around for a long time just shutting down, because these charter schools are mm-hmm. offering better education. But the fact that you can say that you went to a school that helped you be more confident as a Black person, had African history and Black history involved, going to a charter school, I'm assuming they're not offering that.
You know, I can't speak to what charter schools offer. I mean, there are some good, there are some bad. I'm not mm-hmm. like a big supporter of charter schools, just given that they're, to my understanding, a lot of them are privately funded. Mm-hmm. But I do know, like, the Jalen Rose Academy in Detroit, shout out to Jalen Rose, they're doing some phenomenal work there, which I believe is a charter school. And they have a really good graduation rate, and also, like, students who've gotten accepted into college. I think it's a charter school. I'm not entirely sure. Mm-hmm. But there are some good ones. There are some bad ones. But I think that the purpose behind what those schools are, the mission, are they really preparing students to excel at the next level, i.e. like the population I work with at the collegiate level. So, mm-hmm. yeah, but public schools, I mean, I'm public school raised, as you can say, but I've also had people who come on there who've gone to private and also charter schools, and they turned out fine.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all okay. You know, my whole point
Yeah.
behind that is that with some of those charter schools, from articles that I've read and a documentary, the scores and the education behind it isn't necessarily better, but they sell it like it's better, but it really isn't. And the fact that they're pulling these kids from these historical schools that have been there for years are causing these schools to be shut down. They don't have enough students. So it's causing a shift in the education and causing empty buildings in the city. Because, you know, now there's not enough room, or now there's not enough students to fill the schools, because charter schools have come in and sold kind of a dream to the parents. So I wanted to get your take on that. But with you being an educator, I would like you to kind of explain how you are helping us in the community with educating our kids.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my background is in higher education, and that derives from my own lived experience. And one thing I forgot to mention with my upbringing is that neither one of my parents graduated high school. So I am the epitome of a first generation college student to the core. I didn't come in with any social capital. So my background, being a student, I was conditionally admitted into my undergraduate institution, Wayne State University. That kind of set the path for me wanting to educate, because although I wasn't the best student in high school, and though I was conditionally admitted, I had such dynamic support there, and I was able to work as a peer mentor to help other students. So having said that, it began early on. What I'm currently doing now and what I've done throughout my career, I've been supporting students who are underrepresented being defined by race, ethnicity, socioeconomic background, people who's like you and me. I mean, I've kind of identified some of those things, first generation college students. So what I'm doing now, currently, I'm at the University of Minnesota, working in the Twin Cities, the flagship institution, and I support underrepresented students in STEM, students who are a part of NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers, the Hispanic Society of Hispanic Professional Engineership, and the indigenous Native students as well. So working with those individuals, helping to support them, and really just helping them to find space. There are so many programs. It's not just me doing this, but there are so many mechanisms of support, so many people who are at the table to help to advocate for these students. I'm just a part of that system of support. And that's what I've done for the better part of my career, from being a peer mentor at Wayne State to working at Eastern Michigan to working at the University of Minnesota, which is so surreal because I'm from the D, first generation college student. I didn't have the best grades come out of high school. That's surreal that I'm even in Minnesota, like working, like, yo, I'm here. But there's still more work that needs to be done. But yeah, I mean, that's my career, but I do stuff on the side as well to support students that I don't always promote. But I'm just about helping our people. I see the benefit and value of education, but I also see the benefit and value of people following their goals and following their things that they're interested in. That's what I'm all about.
I love that. What was it, a job that made you move to Minnesota?
I would say so, but the other thing, and we can take this for what it is, I'm a big Prince fan. Okay. Love Prince. Always have, always will. The job did bring me there, but it was other things like being very transparent. I'd never been to Minnesota a day in my life other than when I went for the interview. And I remember mentioning this. I no longer work at this position, but I'm surprised I received it. I just told him, like, hey, I love Prince. And we just had a conversation about Prince, who is from here, or was from here, I should say. Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And, like, for me to be here as such a big fan, it's been a dream come true. I mean, I've been here for almost 7 years. I've seen him. Met people who've known him, and it's been fun.
That's amazing. I love Prince too. Love him.
Yeah.
So when you're working with these kids, underrepresented kids, and the Hispanic population is definitely that also. Do you find it hard? Do you see a lot of people having a hard time taking up space, going out and putting themselves out there?
I would say so. And I think that the students, as best as they can, they try to do a good job of finding space. I know sometimes that isn't the easiest thing in the world because there are mechanisms and power structures, i.e. white supremacy, that prevent them from taking up that space. And what I mean by that, the system wasn't designed for us to excel or do well. And I'm seeing us by Black people, Indigenous, Native people, Latinx, Hispanic, anybody that's underrepresented, anybody that's non-white. So it wasn't designed for us to do well.
Right.
So having said all of that, the students that I'm working with, that's why I love working with younger people, even on the podcast and conversing with them, is that their energy is contagious. Like, they have the courage to do things that somebody like me may not have done because I was too afraid of like the repercussions. But they're like, F this, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
This I want to do. We're going to try to create that space. And they're going to administrators and saying like, we need this space. Now I know like in Minnesota, which is a predominantly white state, it's a little bit harder for them to do that. They're doing as best as they can because of, again, the structures that are in place. But at the same time, they are looking at spaces where they can be their authentic selves. And that's very admirable for them to do. And as I am there, and as other people who are like me are there, who can support them, that's what we get up every day to do. So it's a challenge, but at the same time, like, they're doing what they can and we're there to support them.
Right. One thing I do want to say is I definitely appreciate you being an educator, because we need more Black male educators out there. We need to see more black male teachers. We need that. Our men need that. Our little boys need that. So I definitely want to commend you on that, in your accolades and everything that you've done and what you continue to do even on the side. So I definitely want to just say thank you for that.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
No problem. So how can we support you in what you do?
That's a good question. It's funny y'all asked the same question on my podcast. I'm not sure if I know how to answer it. I mean, I would say a couple of things that you can do for me personally, and this doesn't benefit me by no means, but support Black businesses. Like, I love going to different spaces, like, in your city in Vegas. I was scheduled to go out there, but with this whole coronavirus, I am no longer going to be going out there.
Yeah.
But I know there were a few places that I wanted to support. I had a list of places I wanted to go to. So please support these businesses. Once this hopefully everything dies down soon, we can start traveling again. Make that a priority. I know it's cool to go to Chick-fil-A or Papa Dough or whatever the case may be, because I go to some of those places, but at the same time, your brother and your sister, they selling the same kind of product, but they also need your support as well.
Right.
With me being a Black writer who writes for a Black publication, support your Black-owned newspapers and publications. Support the Black writers. Like, I love what I do, even though I do it more so as a hobby and writing these stories. Like, for instance, I had the opportunity to go see Jill Scott a few weeks ago. And Jill Scott is somebody I've loved for many years, but to be able to write an article about her and to showcase her work, like, give people their flowers while they're still here.
Yes.
It goes to, me loving Prince. Like, I would have kicked myself if he had passed away and me not seeing him in concert, but I was able to do that, and I'm happy and I'm grateful. So I would say, support these businesses, support Black publications, support independent artists and support these older artists too. Like, I know it's cool to, check out Cardi B and stuff like that. She don't really, I'm not really a big Cardi B fan, but I digress. But at the same time, like, you got other artists out here that's like a Jill Scott, that's like a Raphael Sadiq. I'm just thinking about people that I've covered in recent months. Like, they still need your support too, and they are legends to me in my book. So
I love them.
And lastly, listen to the podcast, Detroit Worldwide. I mean, it's bigger than me. Rarely do I record a solo episode, but the guests, they drive the podcast. So check their stories out and support what you're doing as well. That's what you can do for me.
Definitely. I want to know what you plan to come out here and do. Where did you plan on going?
Well, my brother, he was getting married and he still will. It'll probably be rescheduled, but just going out here to check him out, check out the wedding that he had planned for us. This would have actually been my third time out there. My first time going to Vegas, coincidentally, was last year to see a Detroit artist, Anita Baker.
Okay.
I saw Anita Baker last June. I love Anita Baker. Everybody who's from Detroit, we love Anita Baker.
Yeah, I was born in the Midwest. My mom used to play that on repeat nonstop. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love Anita Baker. I was able to see her perform last summer. But yeah, I was just going to check out my brother. He has some stuff planned for us and checking out some of the businesses. I know that you all have, to my understanding, a Black-owned movie theater and some other restaurants I wanted to check out. I'm really a food person, so
okay. Yeah,
I just wanted to get some food.
We have over 50 Black-owned restaurants here in Las Vegas, and I work under Go Urban Vegas. We highlight a lot of Black businesses. We have a list of the restaurants. So when you get here, make sure you hit me up. I hand you the book. We have a whole magazine that that we can give you that tells you where to go for the Black businesses. So make sure you stay connected.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You ain't saying nothing but a word. I was like hunting and looking on social media. And, so now that I got the plug, I'm going to definitely be hitting you up and, checking you out. So, yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Not a problem. Definitely. Make sure you follow Go Urban Vegas on Facebook, Instagram. We got everything from events to businesses to everything you need Black owned. So make sure you guys follow Detroit Worldwide. I want to really thank you, Marquis, for being on the podcast today. In the midst of everything that we've got going on, we still have to put out content because this time right now I feel is so vital and people need something different. You can only watch so much Netflix. You can only play Uno so many times at home, so the fact that, I feel like it's an obligation for us to put out new content every week. If you have a podcast that's weekly, every day, if you have one that's daily. Shout out to DJ, because I know you were on his show too. Shout out to DJ, Black Equity Network. He's always plugged in and has amazing guests too. But I just want to thank, all the amazing people that I know and that are involved in the podcast world. I want everybody to just continue to put out content because people need it.
Yeah, and let me just say shout out to you as well. Like, what you're doing is fantastic. I'm one of those people that are like, yo, I want to be on your podcast because, one, you have substance. Two, and I wish I would have came down to the studio. It looks dope. But then three, you know what you're doing. You got good content, and it goes back to the substance. DJ, shout out to you. Y'all did a fantastic episode. I listened to a few of your episodes as well, but you got some good shit popping. See, I'm cussing. I shouldn't even be doing
it's
all this. You got some good stuff.
Listen, I've been trying not to cuss because I'm really working on a syndicated radio show. So I gotta watch my mouth. But anything goes on Melanin Blvd. You ain't even gotta worry.
Okay, well, yeah, you definitely got some good shit popping over there. Keep up the good work. I'm proud of what you're doing, and who knows, we gonna keep it moving. We'll see each other at the top. You never know.
Yeah, when you come to Vegas, we could still record another episode about anything.
Oh, bet.
All right.
I got you.
So when we get here, when you can come, just let me know. I'm holding off on buying my flights, but the tickets are so cheap. I want to go to the Roots picnic in June, and the ticket was like $73. I was like, Well, it's May 29th, I think. Yeah, May 29th or 30th. I'm going to be there. I don't care. Burna Boy's going to be there. That's all I care about. But tickets are cheap. Get your tickets now if you can. You can get them out months in advance, and they're still really good prices. So hopefully we'll be able to fly by then. So
you fly Southwest or whatever airline you fly?
Man, I will get on the back of a Beetle. I don't care. I'm just trying to get there. I always be like, I'm never flying Frontier, but them tickets be looking so good. But it was actually American Airlines. The ticket was only $73, which you save because they don't charge for a carry-on like Frontier does. So I was like, yeah, bet that's a look right there. So tickets are looking good. You can go to Puerto Rico for about $27. Come back. Great thing is you can choose any seat you want. They're all open.
Okay.
So I definitely, again, want to thank you for being on the show. Make sure you guys follow Detroit Worldwide Podcast. Make sure you listen and tune in. Make sure you tune in with me. Don't forget to tell your friends to tell their friends, and maybe we could be friends to tune in every Thursday to Melanin Blvd.